guys, welcome to Essentials Week 23. We are almost at the very end of our time together. I can't believe it. I hope that you take a moment to just reflect on how much you've learned. It's amazing. I remember the first time I ever took the Essentials class, not the first time I taught it, but I took it. I felt like I was back in college taking copious notes, and I thought it was as hard as a college level class. And I never learned any of these things in the first place. So I hope that you all feel very proud of how far you've come and the work that your students have done. It's really amazing. And I'm very proud of all of you and wish I could be with you today, but we are back to our video presentation. So we're just gonna make the best of it. We are reviewing the SVT-IO-DO pattern this week. We're still working with the compound complex structure. And right off the bat, our part of speech this week is the adverb. Everybody remembers that adverbs modify a verb, adjective, or another adverb and answer the questions who, why, when, where, how much, how often, to what extent, and under what condition. So if you have your trivium table with you, you can look on the adverb. It's right on the back. On the little adverb page. There's a couple other things I want to point out about adverbs. There are actually 4 types of adverbs. There are simple adverbs, so those are, if you look on your trivium table, it tells you right here. Simple, it would be a one-word adverb with no suffix. A flexional adverb is an adjective plus ly. So those are all your ly adverbs. So, you know, for example, the word swift is an adjective, but if we add an ly, swiftly now becomes an adverb. So remember that adjectives modify nouns or pronouns, adverbs modify everything else. There are affirmative adverbs like yes, certainly. There are negative adverbs, no, not, never. And there are degrees of adverbs. So we talked about this a little bit with adjectives as well. There are positive, comparative, and superlative adverbs. So you remember with adjectives, example of positive, comparative, and superlative would be great, greater, greatest. So with adverbs, it would be positive would be swiftly, comparative would be more swiftly, and superlative would be most swiftly. But it's the same idea that there are degrees at which we want to convey the magnitude of something. And so that's just, you know, something you can be practicing this week with your adverbs when you're working on your own. So we will continue to talk about adverbs, but I just wanted to kind of go over that really quickly up top. So let's move to our sentence pattern this week. We are reviewing the SVT-IO-DO sentence pattern. So right now, press pause and see if you can come up with an SVT-IO-DO sentence pattern on your own, okay? Okay, so the sentence that I came up with was Ella made me a sandwich. And in order to determine if this really is an SVT-IO-DO, we're going to ask these series of questions here. So you look at your sentence, and if you can answer these questions correctly, then you will indeed have an SVT-IO-DO sentence. So who or what is my sentence about? My sentence is about Ella. So Ella is my subject. And what's being said about Ella? What's she doing? She made. Right? And then I'm going to say, Ella made who or what? What did Ella make? Now, we're used to seeing the direct object follow the verb, right? So it's tempting to say, Ella made me. Here's my direct object. But is that what I'm trying to say? Am I trying to say Ella made me? Or did Ella make a sandwich? Ella made a sandwich, right? So this is actually my direct object right here. And if I have a direct object, then I know that this is a transitive verb. And then can I answer this last question? Ella made a sandwich to or for who or what? So can I say Ella made a sandwich for who? Yes, I can, for me, right? So in this instance, me would be my indirect object. And then we know that A is an adjective. Okay, so hopefully everybody's remembering all that. This is all familiar territory. We've been over that before. So right now what I want you to do is I want you right now, what purpose is this sentence? Is it declarative, exclamatory, interrogative, or imperative? Hopefully you answered declarative. That's what it is. It's a declarative sentence. It's making a statement.
Duh.
But let's turn it into an imperative. So remember, there's a trick to an imperative. It's a command, so your subject is going to change. So press pause and convert this declarative sentence into an imperative. You'll notice that I changed my verb from the past tense, made, into the present tense, make, because remember that an imperative is always in the present tense. You can't command someone to do something yesterday or in the future. You're doing it right now. So this verb becomes a present tense verb, and what happened to my subject? It disappeared, or did it? So I know all of you smarties out there are going, the subject in an imperative is the implied you, right? That's what I'm talking about. It's always the second person, so it's either going to be singular you or plural you, but it's always going to be the implied you. So you make me a sandwich. This is how your sentence should look in the imperative. But I can still answer all these questions. I can still say who or what is my sentence about? You, I'm talking to you. Make what, a sandwich, for who? For me. So all these questions still work. This is still an SVT IODO. We just changed the purpose. Okay, so since we're talking about adverbs, why don't you press pause and add an adverb to this sentence? And if you get stuck, you're like, well, I don't know, what's an adverb, what's an adjective? Remember, it's going to answer one of these questions. You can see that I added my adverb at the end of the sentence quickly. Adverbs are pretty easy to identify because most of them end in ly. And this answers the question how, right? How should I make this sandwich, or how should you make the sandwich? Make it quickly. I could put it up here quickly, you know, make me a sandwich. It doesn't really matter where you put an adverb, but if we were going to diagram this, where would it go? Because it answers the question, what did I say? Why? Wait, no. Who? No. Why, where, when, how. Sorry, not who, how. Okay, because it answers the question how, it's going to go under the verb, because that's the word that it's modifying. I'm not quickly sandwiching, right? I'm not quickly meaning, I'm quickly making. So it would go under the word make, all right? Okay, now since we're working with the compound complex structure, let's turn your sentence into the compound complex structure. So right now it's simple. There's just one independent clause. So let's add another independent clause and a dependent clause. So press pause, see what you can come up with. All right, so you see that I added because I am hungry and I need food. You could have added literally anything. So I can't see what you're doing, but you can just sort of follow the pattern of what I'm doing here. So I've labeled quickly as my adverb. Because is a subordinating conjunction. And so let's see if I have another subject and verb here. So because I am hungry, who or what is the subject of that clause? I. And what's being said about I am. Am I doing anything? No, I'm just being something, right? So this isn't an action verb. Can I answer the question, I am who or what? I can. So I might be tempted to think that this is a direct object. But since I'm not doing anything, I'm just being something, this isn't a direct object. Does this rename me? Would this be a predicate nominative? Am I saying I am a mother or I am a teacher? Or does this describe me? Yeah, it describes me, right? So this would be what? A predicate adjective. So here I have a predicate adjective. So if I have a subject, verb, predicate adjective, what type of verb is this? Linking. Because I am hungry, could that be a sentence all by itself? No, it couldn't. So there I have one subordinate clause. I know that the word and is a coordinating conjunction. That's one of my fanboys. So let's look at this clause. I need food. Do I have another subject and verb here? Who or what is that clause about? It's about I, what's being said about me, I need, and can I answer the question, I need who or what? Yes. So I need food, so this would be my direct object. So if a direct object, what type of verb is that? That is a transitive verb. So I have one independent clause, two independent clauses, and one subordinate clause. So I do indeed have the complex compound structure there. So Hopefully you did something similar. I'm sure that you did because you guys are all very, very, very smart. Okay, there are a few basic adverbs just to wrap up our little section about adverbs that are kind of easy to overlook. They're words like very, so, quite, still, rather. Not every adverb ends in ly, most of them do, but there are a few that you just kind of need to look out for and kind of memorize, or just go through the list of questions and ask yourself, well, what question is this word answering? And that'll tell you for sure whether it's an adverb or not. Okay, so let's talk about our last verbal. So 2 weeks ago we talked about the infinitive, when you're using an infinitive form of a verb as another part of speech. So remember, I think one of the examples was to dance is fun. So to dance is the infinitive form of dance, but in that sentence it's acting like my subject, right? Because that's what my sentence is about, to dance. And then last week we talked about past and present participle verbs acting as different parts of speech, right? Or was it just past participle? It was past participle verbs acting as adjectives, right? The tired baby cried, or the decayed tooth was rotten, something like that. So in those two sentences, tired and decayed are both verbs, but they're acting like adjectives. They're describing the baby or the tooth. This week, we are going to talk about our last verbal, the gerund. So that was part of your memory work in Foundations a couple weeks ago. So a gerund is a present participle verb used as a noun. So last week we had past participle verbs used as adjectives. This week we have present participle verbs acting as nouns. That just basically means an ing verb acting as a noun. Gerunds can perform any of the many noun jobs. So if you think about your 7 sentence patterns, there are, 7 of those jobs I think present participle verbs can do. So I'm going to put some examples up on the board and then we'll go through them and I'll show you exactly what I mean. I have some examples here on the board of ing, so present participle verbs acting in the role that a noun would normally play in our sentence pattern. So let's look at these. I think I said there's 7. There's actually 6. I'll go into a little more detail about that in just a minute. Let's look at these 6 different examples here. In the first one, voting is legal. Voting is a verb. Voting is something that you do. I am voting. But in this particular case, voting is illegal. Who or what is this sentence about? It's about voting. So voting would be my subject of this sentence because voting isn't the action that's happening in the sentence. We're talking about voting as if it's a thing, a person, place, thing, activity, or idea. So it's playing the role of a noun even though it's a verb. And what's being said about voting, it is. Can I say voting is who or what? Yes, it's legal. Does legal rename voting, or does legal describe voting? Legal describes voting, so I've got a predicate adjective there, and that is a linking verb. So in this sentence, my ing word is playing the role of the subject. Let's look at this sentence here. I love dancing. Who or what is my subject here? I. What's being said about I love? I love who or what? I love dancing. So again, in this sentence, so here, dancing would be the direct object because it's receiving the action of love. I'm not talking about me dancing. That's not the action that's happening in this sentence. This ing word is playing the role of a different kind of noun. In this sentence, it is the direct object. This one here, this one's a little bit tricky. The judges awarded her cooking first place. So who or what is the sentence about? It's about the judges. What are they doing? Are they cooking? No, they're awarding, right? This is what they're doing. So this is actually my verb. Cooking is a verb, something that you do, but in this case, let's see what role it's playing in this sentence. So who or what did they award? So let me say the judges awarded who or what. You might be tempted to say they awarded her cooking, but they're not giving her cooking the award, right? What are they actually giving? What's the thing that they're giving? They're not giving cooking, or they're not awarding cooking. They're awarding first place. So this is my direct object, and then can I say the judges awarded first place to who or what? To what? Yes, to her cooking. So in this sentence, Cooking is playing the role of an indirect object. Let's see this one here. By studying, she passed the test. Who or what is my subject? She, that's what I'm talking about, right? What did she do? She passed. What's being said about her? She passed who or what? She passed the test. What type of word is by? You all should have this memorized. If you said preposition, you are correct. By is a preposition, so if I have a preposition, it will be followed by what? An object of the preposition. So in this case, my ing word here, studying, is playing the role of the object of the preposition. Let's look at this one here. Her favorite hobby is knitting. So who or what is this sentence about? Her hobby. What's being said about her hobby? It is who or what? It's knitting. Is that a direct object? Is her hobby actually doing anything? There's no action taking place here, right? So this is a linking verb. So now we have to decide, can knitting rename hobby? Does hobby equal knitting? Could I say knitting is her favorite hobby? Could I swap those two? Yes. So in this case, it is playing the role of the predicate nominative, my ing word. All right, the teacher called his behavior cheating. Here's another kind of tricky one. So who or what is this sentence about? It's about the teacher. The teacher's doing what? The teacher called. The teacher called who or what? Called his behavior, but that's not quite the end of the story, right? So there's a transitive verb. In this sentence, my ing word is playing the role of what? Do I need cheating to complete the idea of this sentence? Can I just get rid of cheating and would that sentence make sense? The teacher called his behavior? No, that doesn't really make sense, right? Do I say the teacher called his cheating? That doesn't make sense either. I need both of these to complete the idea of this sentence. So this ing word is playing the role of the object complement noun. If you have your trivium table, you can look on your noun page and you can see those 9 different roles that a noun can play in a sentence. We've looked at that before a couple of times. So of the 9 roles that a noun can play in a sentence, 6 of them can be, we can use gerunds or present participle verbs to fill that role. So you see all of my ing words here. They're all playing different roles in the sentences. So what it can't do, it can't be in a positive, it can't be a noun of direct address. So remember, an appositive is a noun next to another noun that further identifies it, like my dog Rover. A noun of direct address we always use with the imperative purpose to just further clarify who the imperative you is. So if I'm saying, you know, Ella, make me a sandwich, in that instance, Ella is my noun of direct address. And the other thing it can't do is it can't be a possessive noun adjective. So I can't say, oh, maybe it could actually. I gotta think about that. You know, that's where you say like Mary's books. So Mary's would be the possessive noun adjective. Could it be knitting's yarn? I don't know. I'd have to think about that one for a minute. But these are the 6 most typical ways that you'll see a present participle verb being used as a noun in a sentence. How would you diagram that? I'm glad you asked. So let's pick one of these sentences here. Well, maybe we'll do a couple different ones. Let's see. We'll start with I love dancing. So let me just do it up here. So remember that these verbals have kind of special things that we do to them. So again, it's going to go in the normal place that you would put it, but it's going to go up on those stilts, and you do this little stair-steppy thing. So you would go, let's see, so it would kind of like cascade over the stair step. I love dancing, like that. Okay, so this is where it would live in this pattern as the direct object. If I was gonna say voting is legal, I would go like this. I would just put it in the place where my subject usually goes. So I would say voting is legal, so on and so forth. So let's see, let's do the preposition, the object of the preposition. So I have to ask myself, this prepositional phrase here, what question is it answering? Is it adverbial or is it adjectival? I would say it's probably adverbial, right? Why she studied or she passed the test because, why? Yeah, I would say it's why. So it's adverbial, so that means I'm going to put it under my verb, right? So this one, I would do like this. She passed the test, and then just like you would do a normal prepositional phrase, your object of the preposition is going to go right here, and you're going to put, oh, I did too many there, by studying. So it goes in the normal spot that my object of the preposition would go, it just goes up on those stilts and on that little stair-steppy type thing. All right. I am going to put a sentence up on the board for you to try at home, and you'll press pause on the tape, parse it, diagram it, and then we'll come back and you can see if you got it correct, if you did it correctly. Sentence number 1, JJ, who likes helping, baked me a cake. Sentence number 2, Noelle, who is a seamstress, showed me some stitching and she made me a dress. Sentence number 3, Roxy generously gave me a dance lesson and she showed me some twirling in her studio. Press pause, pick one, see if you can parse and diagram it, and then hit play, see if you're right. Here are the answers. So sentence number 1, JJ, that's my subject. What's being said about him? He baked. He baked who or what? A cake for me. So me is my indirect object. Cake is my direct object. Who likes helping? That's a who which clause. So that's a subordinate clause. Who likes helping could not be a sentence all by itself in the declarative. Subject, verb transitive, direct object. Now notice my ing word here, my gerund, is acting like a direct object. So this is how I would diagram it. This subordinate clause is coming off of my independent clause here, and my gerund is going in the spot of the direct object. Sentence number 2, Noelle, who is a seamstress, showed me some stitching and she made me a dress. Noelle showed, what did she show me? Some stitching. There's my ing word acting like a noun, another direct object. Who did she show? Me. There's my indirect object. Who is a seamstress? That's a subject, verb, linking, predicate, nominative, subordinate clause. And she made me a dress. Here's another independent clause. She's a subject, made what she make the dress for me, indirect object. So this is how I would diagram that. So you can see that the gerund is here in the direct object spot. I've connected my verbs of the 2 independent clauses, showed and made. And then my who which clause is coming off of Noelle because that's who it's giving me more information about. And then sentence number 3, Roxy generously gave me a dance lesson and showed me some twirling in her studio. So generously is an adverb. So Roxy is my subject, gave what? She gave a lesson to me. So here's my direct object, indirect object, 2 adjectives, and my coordinating conjunction. Another subject, she showed, so she subject, or the verb is showed. What did she show? She showed some twirling. So there's my ing word acting like a direct object again. Well, who or what did she show? Me. So there's my indirect object. In her studio is a prepositional phrase. So this is how that one would look down there. So just one thing to note. In her studio, that prepositional phrase answers the question where, which makes it adverbial. So just make sure that you put your prepositional phrase under showed, since that's our verb in that particular clause. Okay, that's it. Hope you enjoyed this lesson. If you have any questions, I will be available from 2:30 to 3 for live. I'll send out another WebEx invite, and I will answer any questions then and there. All right, thanks guys. Bye. Welcome back to IEW. We are in our second to last week, and we're wrapping it all up with Unit 9. So I introduced this last week. So this should be, I'm just going to go over it one more time. It's the critique. So remember last week we talked about, it's the same body as the narrative storytelling, which I believe is Unit 3. The only thing we're changing is the introductory paragraph and the concluding paragraph. The introductory paragraph is slightly different in that we're starting with an attention grabber. We're telling the audience what type of story it is, who the author is, and maybe giving a little background information if it's relevant. The second paragraph, we would introduce the characters and setting, people, animals, place, time, mood. Third paragraph is going to be the conflict and the plot, so problem, plan, ideas, plots. The fourth paragraph will be the climax and the theme, so you'll talk about the turning point, the resolution if there's any message or theme, and then the concluding paragraph is the one that's new, so you're going to have your student tell the audience if they liked or disliked it, but remember they're not using the word I, they're just stating their opinion as fact. And they may want to give some examples why they did or did not like it. And you can always end with a recommendation. You should read this book, you should not read this book, you should see this movie, you should not see this movie, etc., etc. So last week we did Cinderella. This week we're going to do The Lion King. And so I've already made my keyword outline here, so I'm just going to walk through it with you. So I'm introducing The Lion King. My attention getter is going to be imagine you lost your father. It is a fairy tale. The screenplay was written by Thomas Dish, and it was developed as a movie. So this is not an example of Disney taking a book or an old fairy tale like Cinderella or The Jungle Book or something and turning it into a movie. This is actually one they developed on their own. Okay, so my characters and setting. I have Pride Rock, Mufasa, the king, Simba, son, it's kind of a goof off, Scar, the scheming uncle, Nala, best friend, and the mood is kind of hopeful, I would say anticipation there at the beginning. Simba's excited about, becoming the king eventually. The conflict in the plot, Scar kills Mufasa. He blames Simba. Simba runs away, meets Timon and Pumbaa, and shirks all responsibility. The climax, the climax and the theme. So Nala finds Simba. Simba comes home, confronts Scar, fights Scar and the hyenas, and he wins the battle, and peace is restored at Pride Rock. And then so for my concluding paragraph, I really personally like The Lion King, but I'm saying that I didn't because I want to give you an example of a negative critique. Last week I did a positive one, this week I thought I'd do a negative one. So I put Lion King disappointing, teaches poor morals, glorifies irresponsibility, rip off of Hamlet. I don't know if you knew that. The first time I saw Lion King, I was like, this sounds familiar. And it is, it's based on Hamlet. Definitely skip Lion King. So again, this week, I'm just going to give you an example of the introductory and the concluding paragraph. You guys all know how to write the body, the characters and setting, conflict and plot, climax and theme. That should all be really old hat to you by now. So my introductory paragraph is, imagine you lost your father suddenly. Would you leave your mother to fend for herself? I would hope not. That's exactly what Simba did in Disney's The Lion King. The Lion King is a fairy tale written by Thomas Dish for the screen. It was developed as a movie and later turned into a book. So there's my introductory paragraph. I could always add a few more sentences if I wanted to, spruce it up a little bit, but that's kind of the basic info that we want to give the reader for the introductory paragraph. My concluding paragraph is, The Lion King is unfortunately very disappointing. While Simba does step up in the end, most of the movie he is goofing off and avoiding his destiny. This movie teaches poor morals and glorifies irresponsibility. Additionally, it's a Hamlet ripoff and a poor one at that. Moviegoers of all ages should definitely skip this uninspiring and subpar film. Okay, I don't really feel that way. But there you have it. Now you can see that all of these sentences are just my opinion, but I've stated them as fact here, and I never once used the word I. So I've communicated to my reader that they should not see this movie, but I haven't tipped my hat and said, now it's just me who feels this way. Everyone else loves this movie, but I am stating my opinion as if it were the gospel truth, right? And that's it for critiques. We went through this last week. If you want a little more detailed explanation, you could always go back to the week before and just rewatch that. But I think you guys all get the hang of it by now, and there really isn't a whole lot of new information to be introduced this week, so I just thought I'd give you an alternative example from what I did last week. So again, if you have any questions, you can always email me or text me or call me. And I think I mentioned this last week. I personally am skipping this unit because I want Luke to concentrate on doing his Faces of History. We'll talk about that maybe a little bit in the morning session during foundations, because I know some people may want to do it, some people may not. And that's fine. So that's it. If you guys, like I said, if you have questions or comments, just give me a shout. Otherwise, I will talk